Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I used for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. Nonverbal learning disability. It's very hard to tell that it's obvious that they have a learning disability or challenge. So that's where I think qualifying for SS or SSDI.
SSI or SSDI.
Yeah, where that might be more challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, for our daughter, we didn't meet Debbie until after we lost our first application, and then when which most people do, and then we appealed, and the attorney figured like relatively before the trial that we were going to lose, and then they fired us. And my wife probably put 1,000 hours into developing the medical case.
Wow.
That if she had known what she was doing, it would have been a lot less. But she just meticulously, and we qualified for SSDI, which is more difficult than SSI, and I don't want to get into the distinction, but I'll just say going to the right person. And this is an area where I think you don't want to pack your own parachute. You're better off paying because the stakes are so high. That $1.9 million that we saved for our daughter, it would be way, way less if she didn't qualify for government benefits.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you want to get that part, right, and you want to get the estate planning right. And even if somebody's pretty good, I would say most estate planners who even work in the area of special needs children, does special needs trusts, very few of them know about the toggle. And to me, it's kind of an obvious solution.
Yeah, that I don't think I even heard about that solution before you told me about it. But
no, most people won't. And one of the challenges is a lot of people I can picture. Okay, Jim, I researched. I found this guy. He's supposed to be the top guy in the city on doing special needs trusts. And I told him I heard this program with Jim Lang, and maybe they got the book. Can you do a toggle trust? And he says, "What's a toggle trust?" So this is not an easy road for parents. If you have a child with a special need, whether it's a special learning need or a physical need, as in my daughter's case, I mean, my daughter, you could give her an advanced calculus problem and she'd be fine with it. But you say, hey, you want to go for a walk? That would be a major challenge. So anyway, so one of the things that I like to tell parents is this isn't a time to be proud. This is a time to get every single government benefit that you're entitled to and take advantage of every single area in the tax law that you can. And that, by the way, we haven't really even talked about much about that. That happens to be my area of specialty and what I've been doing for the last literally 30 plus years.
Yeah, so you can go into that a little bit if you want with the different benefits they can get.
Okay, and maybe we'll repeat this at the end, but can I tell people where they can get the book? And
Sure.
can I also mention the summit that we're doing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Um, I'm pretty sure that this is right. I'm going to email my office right now to confirm, um, in case I'm giving the wrong address. Um, um, if they were to go to well, first, so the book, and by the way, the book, I mean, it's a monster. It's like 450 pages, but the key to
Wow.
the book is you don't have to read the whole thing, and the table of contents is 20 pages by itself.
Hmm.
So it's very easy to look for the exact thing. Like, so let's say that one of your viewers is good with everything. They've done everything that I've talked about, but they never heard of the toggle trust. Well, they can go to the table of contents and look for toggle trusts, and there it
Hmm.
is, and it's a description or anything. So I'm a big believer in over providing information, but then making it accessible. So
Hmm.
again, and I'm pretty sure that um, the I should have had this, but it is this www.disabledchildplanning.com/June.
Okay.
All right, because in June we are having a summit. And that's going to consist of it's right now we're planning for it for 3 days. And I'm going to be one of the speakers. Debbie McFadden, who I referred to as the SSI and SSDI, she's going to be one of the speakers.
Hmm.
Joey Steinbacher, who is the estate attorney, who has this area of expertise. And by the way, all three of us, this will be the second summit for us. And we just got glowing reviews on the first one. And we're also going to be inviting other speakers. So, for example, oh, here, let's see. Here we go. Shoot, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Um, so we're actually still looking because it's not until what did I say, June 16th to 18th. We're still looking for other speakers. We do know that Tatiana McFadden is speaking. Tatiana is a world champion Paralympic athlete with something
Hmm.
like 20 Olympic medals, and she won multiple world championships and she won multiple local marathons. She is a wheelchair racer, a
Wow.
true champion. She's going to be one of our speakers. And then we're hoping to get other speakers also. So the idea is to provide just a tremendous resource at no cost for parents with a child with a disability. And I'm gonna double check this address. But anyway, you can get the book and you can sign up for information because we don't even have all the speakers decided yet. And our goal, by the way, is to get the best speakers in areas that don't overlap.
Hmm.
Very frankly, maybe we'll talk about that, Jennifer, after the call, because you might know somebody that would have a great area of knowledge that other people wouldn't. And so, for example, I know, a lot of times I don't get as involved in the particular disability for a child. So, in other words, for my work, whether the child has autism or whether the child um, doesn't have the use of their legs,
Right.
my work is pretty much the same. On the other hand, if we had a specialist who could
Hmm.
who could, for example, a specialist in maybe the invisible learning challenges even is such a broad area. But anyway, if they go to disabledchildplanning.com/June,
Hmm.
Then we're doing this 3-day event, and I think the information that we're going to provide is, I genuinely believe, is life-changing. And we have changed lives, and people have said that, because if you're constantly worried about your own finances and then what's going to happen to your child after you're gone, and then all of a sudden, and I'm not, this isn't magic. We're not going to make money. This isn't some scheme or anything else. It's just good, solid planning. It makes a big difference. And like I said, we're number crunchers, and you can quantify, well, okay, here's if you do nothing, and here's the
Mm-hmm.
trajectory. And here's if you do it right, and here's the trajectory. And it's easy to quantify. And even for do-it-yourselfers, if you're willing to grind it out, your family will be a lot better off. I caution the do-it-yourselfers, because the cost of botching it is so high. But
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to come on this program, as well as others, and just tell people, hey, there's some great resources out there, and this book is the starting point. And again, I'm happy to do the digital version for free.
Thank you. So I was wanting to ask you that I think a lot of my listeners have heard about the importance of getting your child qualified for SSI or SSDI, and maybe they haven't. Do you want to concentrate a little bit on the third element of getting their strategic financial planning right?
Okay, sure. So at the risk of being a little bit technical, and the strategy that I'm going to talk about will usually be much more relevant. So let's assume that their child is qualified for SSI and SSDI. Let's assume, although it's a little bit independent, but let's assume that they got the estate planning right. And even if it isn't perfect, at least it's reasonable. And maybe let's assume there is a special needs trust. And then the third element is, okay, what are the financial strategies? What is the major factor after getting the first two issues taken care of, which is qualifying for SSI and getting or SSDI, and then getting the estate planning right? What is by far the one strategy that is relatively well known in the general world, but not well known in the parent with a child disability world, is getting your Roth IRA conversion strategies right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would maintain, as somebody who has been doing this since 1990, and I've written dedicated books on Roth IRA conversions, and our office is known for crunching the numbers, and it's and the other thing about Roth IRA conversions, and this is going to sound a little arrogant, and I'll apologize for that in advance. It's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of math. You can argue, okay, well, we don't know exactly what the future tax laws are going to be, and we don't know exactly what the future tax rates are going to be. But what I like to do for people who are, skeptical is say, well, what assumptions would you like us to make? That taxes are going to stay the same, that they're going to go up, they're going to go down, um, or or we just don't know, so just use the existing tax structure, or the tax laws are going to change. So there are challenges with what assumptions you're going to use. And what
Mm-hmm.
interest rates are you going to use? Should you use 4%? Should you use 6%? Should you use 2%? But once you get over those assumptions, and one of the things that we like to do in practice is we kind of have our own, which tend to be on the conservative side, which is, even though we think taxes in the long run will go up, because historically we're actually at a low, it doesn't seem like it, but we're actually at a low tax rate. Um, but we'll be conservative. Let's just say taxes stay the same or don't go up. What if the interest rate isn't 6, 8, 10%? What if it's 4%? Again, conservative strategies. All right, and let's run the numbers for both the life of the parent and the life of the child.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where you are with, let's say, no Roth conversions, and here's where you are with the optimal Roth conversions, and here's where you are if you do some, but you don't optimize it. And we can run those numbers, and that's what we do. And that is very often life-changing for the parent. And so why not, to me, as parents of a child with a disability, we have such challenges as it is. Our daughter, while she's doing okay financially, she has lots of other challenges that take up particularly my wife's time. And we're trying to reproduce some of those services for after she's gone. But that's challenging enough. Let's get the financial part right. And
Mhm.
that way your child will be in a position where either they or the trustee can pay for services. So even little things like, my daughter, for when it came time to eat, didn't have enough energy to cook, and she'd eat a
Mm.
bag of chips or something like that. And that's pretty crappy. But
Yeah.
but now she has some money. So she uses DoorDash, which, not that that's, high quality culinary, the most nutritious food in the world, but,
Mhm.
she gets a salad and some protein, and gets reasonable meals. So you want to provide for the child financially, and one of the ways to do it, and I'm not going to say, oh, I have this wonderful magic investment and our money managers are going to beat the index S&P by 3%, and after paying a fee of 1%, you're going to be 2%. No, no, no. That's pie in the sky. But these are quantifiable strategies, and there's about 200 pages of them in this book. But if you said, Jim, what is the one strategy that there's a very good chance that our listeners are not taking advantage of, and what is that strategy? It is optimizing what is typically not 1 year, but typically a series of years of Roth IRA conversions.
Mhm.
And and this is important for young parents, and it's important for old parents. Sometimes people in the middle who are in their highest earning years, they might not be great short-term candidates for Roth conversions, but even then they should have a plan for optimizing it. And then there's some other really interesting advanced strategies that are perhaps beyond the scope of this interview. But one of our strategies is dying with a 401k plan or a 403b plan, and having the child make a Roth conversion after you're gone at the
Mm.
child's tax rate instead of yours. So Jennifer, I know people in the nonprofit make a lot of money, right? So you're making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars doing what you're doing, and you're in such a high tax bracket that maybe doing a Roth conversion now wouldn't be appropriate. And then let's say after you're gone, your child will be in a low bracket. It would be much more advantageous for the child to make a Roth conversion after you're gone, but you can't do that with an IRA, but you can do it with um, if you have die with a 401k or a 403b, which goes against what most advisors say, which, they're so anxious to manage the money. They say, oh, take your 401k and roll it into an IRA. Well, a lot of times that just hurt the child
Mm.
instead of helped. And that's an example where probably 9 out of 10 advisors don't know this. I was talking to a 401k to a no 403b expert. This guy was a CFP, and he worked in that area. Smart guy, good guy. And he had me on the podcast, and I'm telling him this, and he was blown away. And then he researched it and said, hey, yeah, Lang's right. It has to be the right type of plan. And that's another question for another day. But even if you don't have that, there's a good chance we can get you into one of those. So I'll just say it makes a huge, huge difference. And it's not it's not, oh, you like Barbara Streisand, I like Whitney Houston. It's really a matter of opinion who's the greater singer. No,
Mhm.
it's math.
That makes sense. Um, I guess some of my other questions would be,
But by the way,
oh
I
yeah.
just got confirmation. Disabledchildplanning.com/June.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. And
And in which case you get this for free, and and then you can register for the 3-day summit again, which is also free.
okay, great. Yeah, I'll put that link in the description of the podcast episode so they can click on it easily.
Okay.
Um, and then I was gonna ask, it sounds like your your book and the summit are are great resources for people or for parents with children who have special needs. What were the other summits like that you did? Because I know you said you done more than one.
Well, I mean, I've been doing webinars and not summits, but I've been doing them and before the pandemic, I used to do these workshops in person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I continue to do those. I don't think that they would be they wouldn't be of great specific knowledge for your audience. But, I had a radio show for 5 years. And I interviewed the top guys. I interviewed Jack Bogle and Burton Malkiel and all the IRA experts. And and then now I'm presenting, with for parents of a child with a disability. And I love doing it. It's very satisfying. And what's really satisfying, and I haven't really had this much in the child with a disability market, but we have a wonderful retainage rate of something like 97%. And it's wonderful for parents to or for people to, when I run into them socially, or they write me a note and say something like, "Oh yeah, 20 years ago you told me to do XYZ and we did, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're retired and we're happy and we're wonderful." And that kind of thing is terrific. So I genuinely get a charge out of providing great information. And very frankly, for every, I don't know, 1,000 people that I provide great information for, I might get one or two clients. It's not like most people are going to come to use me, partly because of costs and partly because I'm not going to take somebody unless I can save them a lot more money than I'm charging. But I genuinely love the idea, and particularly for a child with a disability. If I'm going to be honest, I've spent the last, say, close to 30 years helping middle income and higher people do even better
Mm-hmm.
and pass even more money to their children and cut their taxes. And not that that's a bad thing, and I feel good about what I've done. But if you're talking about a child with a disability, the difference in the quality of life, for example, you mentioned that you have a child with a learning challenge.
I don't, but I am the child,
I'm so,
actually. It's
oh, I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. The difference between getting it right for a child that does have a disability and
Mm-hmm.
not getting it right is such a huge difference in the quality of life for both you and the child, that I feel that I can be making much more of a difference than I could, which isn't to say I'm abandoning all my traditional clients that I've built up over the years. Of course, I'm continuing to serve them, but I'll just say that if I have a choice, and let's say, and the truth is, planning for a child with a disability is tougher. And the CPAs who are the number crunchers, they're always telling me charge more for that type of work, because it's just more work and there's more
Mm-hmm.
variables, et cetera, et cetera. But that's also very satisfying to me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm, now trying to appear on podcasts, doing these summits, et cetera, et cetera. My business advisor told me when I went into this whole area, particularly the amount of time and effort it took to do this, he said, "You're never going to get your money back in terms of," but that's something I really want to do.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it, and it sounds like it's more for you. It's more for the benefit of helping the parents and the children than the money.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think that that's what the whole field tends to be.
Hmm.
I mean, Jennifer, you're not doing what you're doing for the money. I know you're
No.
not. I don't know you, and I don't know your financial situation. And I'm in touch with executive directors of different organizations, and there may be some smart marketers that can command a higher salary, but this is not generally. You don't do this kind of work, or people that work in the friendship circles or in so many areas. People didn't do this for the money, and I'm just one more. And what we would argue is the satisfaction that we get is even more important than the money. So, you could be a selfish SOB and still go into this field to just get that feeling of satisfaction.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to mention before we go off air?
Yeah, the only other thing that I would say is this isn't an easy area. And a lot of times, let's say you get this book and you go, "Oh my God, it's 500 pages. I can't. I have too many things to do right now. My child's, I'm having this fight in school or whatever it might be. Get this taken care of. Get this taken care of. Get the estate planning done right. Well, the first thing is get your child qualified for SSI or SSDI, or determine if the child doesn't qualify. And we didn't really talk a lot about what happens if they don't, but
Hmm.
there's steps to do if that's the case. Uh, First, try to get the child qualified, then get the estate planning right, and then get the strategies right. And don't put this off. We don't know what's going to happen. Something can happen to you tomorrow. And even if it doesn't, the the typical recommendations that I use for strategy is not, oh, I want you to do a $500,000 Roth conversion tomorrow. No, it might be something like $30,000 a year for the next 10 years or whatever it might be. So don't put this off. Um, you know, you have a problem. You're going to feel a lot better when this is done, and just do it. And and this it's going to sound self-serving, but take advantage of getting this book. I'm offering it again for free, and take advantage of the speakers in the summit.
Yes, thank you. I don't think there's anything else unless there was for you.
Okay, well, I could go. Yeah, I'm an attorney. I could go on all day, but I think we covered the major points. But again, this book,
Hmm.
um, disabledchildplanning.com/June, and we'll send you the book, and we'll send you the invitation to the summit, and hopefully that'll be what could really be a transformation for you and your family.
And the summit's online, right?
Yeah, the summit is yeah, it's a virtual summit, so you can do it from the convenience of your living room. Um,
Okay,
So,
great.
and that's also true of the speakers. Like each speaker, you know, I guess there'll be, I guess I might be the only speaker that'll be in Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and then Debbie's going to be in Maryland. Julie's going to be in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. I don't know where Tatiana's going to be. She's going to be involved in the Paralympics in Paris in, I believe, September
Mm.
2024. So she'll be somewhere training for that. Um, but for your audience, it's the comfort of their own living room or bedroom or wherever they have their computer.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for letting me ask you some questions, Jim. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I hope that episode was well worth it for you to listen to and that you were able to take something away from it, even if you don't have a learning challenge, or if you do. I hope it was extra worthwhile for you so that you are able to learn something and maybe journal and jot down some few takeaways so that the next time you experience that challenge yourself, you're able to um, learn how to breathe through it more easily, or maybe not have a meltdown or a tantrum, or be able to take away more learning from it and not make the same mistake twice, and be able to also help somebody else go through that experience if you have a friend who has a learning difference and you are neurotypical. So I hope you will be able to have some experiences in your life now that you have listened to this episode.